behalf of the Department of English and Modern European Languages, University of Lucknow, and the Rhetorica Literary Society of the Department of English, which is a society that has been primarily set up by the students of the department, I would like to welcome you all to this session today. And this year is very important for us because we are celebrating Beyond the Pleasure Principle, a centennial celebration of the essay written by Sigmund Freud, the founding father of psychoanalysis. And this month is important because this month, that is in the month of May, we also celebrate the birth anniversary of Sigmund Freud. So the two events come together. Now, Beyond the Pleasure Principle is important because here we have Freud talking about the two instincts. One is the life instinct and the other is the death instinct. Freud actually was influenced by the death of his own daughter, and let me tell you that his daughter Sophie died in 1920, and after the death of his daughter he fell into depression and he reformulated some of the ideas that he had already discussed in this essay, Beyond the Pleasure Principle. Now, we have three researchers in the department, and the three researchers have been reading and have been extensively working in this area because they have been looking at psychoanalysis, they have been analyzing texts from the from feminist standpoint, and these three young research scholars from the Department of English would initiate today's program, and they are the ones who are going to discuss the various issues linked with Freudian psychoanalysis. Once again, I would request all of you to please mute yourself and, if possible, switch off your videos so that there is no distraction. Okay? So I would first invite Amrita Sharma to make a presentation. Amrita, are you online?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
Okay.
Okay, please mute your mics. Okay, if you have read Freud before, then this presentation might work as a revision for you. And in case you have not read Freud before, then this is a presentation that aims to tell you as to who was Sigmund Freud, why was he so famous, and why are we today having a webinar to celebrate the centennial year of the publication of one of his essays that he wrote back in 1920, that was Beyond the Pleasure Principle. So this is to tell you about Freud and who he was, introducing Freud's basic concepts and principles. Now here's a picture of Sigmund Freud. Now who actually was Sigmund Freud? Sigmund Freud was an Austrian neurologist who was born in 1856 and perhaps today is best remembered as the father of psychoanalysis, a clinical medicine of psychopathology that he developed, where he used to engage in dialogue with his patients in order to treat their psychological conflicts. Freud was born to Jewish parents in a middle-class family. Here's a picture of the house where he was born, in the town of Freiburg, which was then a part of the Austrian Empire. As a child, Freud was exceptionally talented. He was deeply interested in the areas and theories of evolution, sciences, and actually he continued on a very serious pursuit of these theories. As a picture of the University of Vienna, where Freud went for his higher education. He earned a doctorate of medicine in 1881 at the University of Vienna. And Vienna was probably the place where he lived for the most part of his life. Here's a picture of his very famous residence in Freiburg, in Vienna, which is probably the most famous building associated today with Sigmund Freud. Okay, associated with Sigmund Freud today. Freud died at the age of 83 in 1939 while in exile in the United Kingdom, and perhaps left us with a lot of interesting concepts and some of the best theories in psychology. Now, the PowerPoint slides are just meant to give you an idea of the concepts that is being discussed. The main concepts, I'd just like to give you the most simplistic possible explanation as to the definition of some of the most famous concepts. Okay, the most interesting concept that Freud has given us, and why Freud actually remains so much relevant today is because of the fact that these concepts are so much relatable to what we experience in our day-to-day life. The feelings of confusion, pain, anxiety, fear, and the desires or the drives that actually guide us even while we are experiencing or even while we are attending the webinar here today. That is something that makes Freud so much interesting and so much relevant today. Even Freud's own life was full of anxieties, and he himself very famously had noted that the chief patient I am preoccupied with is myself, and therefore he has left us with numerous concepts and ways to come to terms with the way our human mind works. Okay, just moving on to the first principle. The first concept is the pleasure principle. Now, the pleasure principle, as this term also forms the part of the title of the essay whose centennial year we are celebrating today. Now, in the most simplistic terms, what exactly is the pleasure principle? Pleasure principle relates to our desires, to our drives towards the pleasant things in life. We want to get something that's pleasant to us. We want to do away with something that we do not like, that we do not find pleasant. And this drive towards the easy fulfillment of the emotional as well as the physical gratifications are actually termed as the pleasure principle. The pleasure principle, in just to give you a very simple example, that we want to have something good in life. We want to live a life where we have to work released. So this drive towards not working and getting good food and living a good life might be just the most common example of the pleasure principle, which actually works in contrary to the reality principle. The reality principle refers to our understanding or our drives that work in the context of our social awareness. Now, I would just like to explain the difference between the pleasure principle and the reality principle with this picture here. So, giving you a very basic example, Freud said that pleasure principle or the desire to get something operated the most when we are in the infancy period of our life. When a child looks at a candy, he immediately wants to have it. He does not consider whether that taking of that candy would actually be good for him, bad for him, socially inappropriate or not, but he simply wants to eat that candy. And the very thought of not getting that candy leaves him anxious, leaves him annoyed, and this simple desire to eat that candy can be described as the pleasure principle. Now, again, when that child grows up, matures, and in the mature years, when we again look at a candy, the same desire to take that, the drive towards a pleasant thing in life is again there, but this time we will not just simply go for it. We will just first try to analyze whether that candy is actually socially appropriate for us or not, whether it belongs to us or not, whether eating that candy might end up in some kind of trouble or not. And it is exactly here that the pleasure principle has been replaced by the reality principle. That is, now our mind is working in accordance with the social consciousness or the patterns of the society. So, simply, pleasure principle relates to our drive towards the pleasant things in life. Reality principle also relates to our drive towards the pleasant things in life. Both are leading to gratification. The only difference is that in case of the pleasure principle, we immediately want to have it, while in the case of the reality principle, we first try to. It is actually accompanied by a sense of delay and a sense of social consequence. So I hope I'm clear on that point. So moving on to the next concept. Now, Freud actually said that the pleasure principle or the reality principle both lead to the development of desires within the psyche, but however, these desires can actually never be kept in, cannot be completely fulfilled, and it might actually lead to certain complexity, the most famous among them being the concept of neurosis. Now, again, in a very simple definition of the term, neurosis is the faulty negotiations that develop within the human mind due to the fact then the desires that arise out of these pleasure principles are not fulfilled. We actually need to keep our desires in check because we, as I earlier mentioned, we would always want to have an easy gratification in our life. And when these desires are kept in check under the social norms, under the patterns of the society, they might, when non-fulfilled, might lead to certain the three terms: id, ego, and superego, the next most important concept by Freud. Now, the human unconsciousness, the human psyche, Freud said, was consisted of three parts: the id. Now, the id relates to the pleasure principle, relates to our desires, to our drives, to our longings. The superego relates to our social consciousness that actually helps us to decide what is good for us and what is not, and actually tries to keep our desires under check. And then in between the id and the superego is the ego, which tries to maintain a balance between what we desire and what we should actually be desiring as members of the society. So again, moving forward, here's a picture of Freud. Freud was very, very much interested in child psychology, and in fact, he gave us the three phases to understand the ways. And actually, one concept is leading to the other, because the concept of in order to understand neurosis, we need to understand id, ego, superego in the context of the three phases which the child undergoes. Now, again, giving you a very quick outline of these. The early phase refers to the phase where the idea of ingestion of taking food is solely related to the pleasure. We might develop an idea that a child might develop an idea that eating is the sole cause of pleasure for him, or he might develop an idea that by defying food he might gain pleasure. So this is the phase where ingestion becomes the sole cause of the pleasure here. The next is the animal phase, which also very popularly, which we relate to as the potty training, where parents are actually try to teach the child about the human biology. It is actually also related to the fact where we try to get into terms with the laws of the nature, or in fact, in order to relate it to the concept of authority, or as to how we need to succumb to authority. The next is the phallic phase, which refers to our sexual drive. Now, the phallic phase was the most interesting, where he gave the concepts of the Oedipus complex and the Electra complex. Now, again, those who have not read Freud, again, Oedipus complex refers to the development of the sexual attraction that a child projects towards his parents. Interestingly, as I was reading Freud, this in one of the studies I read, that Freud actually said that okay, first I will define what is the Oedipus complex. Oedipus complex is actually when the male child develops sexual feelings towards the male parent, towards the female parent, and views the male parent as a rival. A similar concept might work in the female child, where the female child might get develop sexual feelings towards the male parent. And as I was telling you, an interesting fact that Freud said is that the idea of love and sex can never be fused. And what he actually noted was the closest people that a child witnesses around him are his parents, that ultimately become the objects on which he projects his sexual feelings for the first time. Now, the people from whom we learn this idea of love are actually the people from whom the society will always block us from having sex. So it is socially inappropriate, as the society dictates the child to have sex with your own parents. Now, again, this might lead to a very probable complexity where the child will never be able to completely relate the idea of love with sex. So the more you love someone, the more difficult it becomes for you to make love to that person. So that was an interesting fact that Freud noted. Now, again, moving on to the next concept, that is the concept of the drive. That has also been mentioned in this particular text. Now, here again is an image by which I would like to tell you of this. The two basic drives that Freud told us about. According to Freud, drives were the basic principles on which human life. Drives were the basic driving elements for governing the way in which human beings behave in society. On the center part of the image is written drive. On the upper part, it relates to life. The lower part. So, according to Freud, there were two basic kinds of drive. The first being the fact that the majority of us in the society have a drive to live, We have a drive to stay healthy. We have a drive to stay safe. We have a drive for sex. We have a drive to propagate our own genes. We have a drive to develop feelings of collaboration, cooperation with other members of the family. And all of these drives that relate towards a positive initiation towards life relate to what Freud termed as eros. Now, contrary to eros was thanatos, where he said that there is an equal probability that someone might develop the negative emotions of self-destruction, harmful behavior. We might develop the emotions of fear, anxiety, anger, which we may project upon our own selves or upon the other members of the society. And this is what Freud termed as thanatos. Beyond the Pleasure Principle was written in 1920. All of the concepts that I tried to give you an outline about are the foundation on which this particular text was based, and the other two speakers would further be elaborating on the Freudian concept. Here's a picture of Freud in his later years. I would just like to end my presentation by leaving you with this popular quote, where it said that no one who disdains the key will ever be able to unlock the door. That is, you might reject Freud by saying that he probably complicated our life too much. Maybe life is not that complicated as Freud is telling us to be. But I would just like to leave you with a remark that if we do not acknowledge, accept, or understand our desires, our longings, or our drives, we might never be able to come to terms with it. Thank you.